2023 by Delhi High Court. We shall commence the program by playing of the national anthem. I request all of you to kindly stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I request the dignitaries on dais to kindly light the ceremonial lamp. Yes. Thank you, ma'am and sirs. We began today's program with the welcome address by Honorable Justice Yashwant Verma, the chairperson of Tribunal Reforms and IP Division Committee.
Good evening to all. Delhi High Court welcomes you on this World Intellectual Property Day. Before I begin, our chief guest, the Honorable Minister, you will please excuse him. He'll have to step out for a little while. And he'll join you shortly. Yeah. So, our nation has traveled far from its journey when it was first described as one of the Asian tigers in the 1980s. Today, it's $1 trillion industry and finding its rightful place in the pantheon of nations. Much of it, of course, is on account of the policies and the directions which the Honorable Minister heading the Ministry of Commerce has done, and it's in his vision and leadership which has led us to this position today. We are honored to have him in our midst. Justice Kohli, welcome back home, ma'am. To our mentors, our Chief Justice, Justice Sharma, Justice Mridul. Sir, without your unstinted support and encouragement, today's event would have not been possible. We are indeed very grateful. We are privileged to have amongst us Ms. Debjani Ghosh, the President of NASSCOM, Ms. Suchitra Ella, the Managing Director and Founder of Bharat Biotech, and Ms. Nandini Harinath, who has worked for the past 20 years in ISRO, and whom we all across the nation fondly call as the Rocket Woman. We are indeed privileged to have all of you amongst us today. The trailblazers amongst us are not just women, but they are achievers in their own right. Their life stories, I have no doubt, will inspire millions to chase their own dreams. Today, and as Forbes reports, we have about 15.7 million women-owned enterprises in the country. They in turn employ 22 to 27 million individuals. It is these leaders who constitute the innovation and creativity capital and quotient of our nation. It is their promise, commitment, and vision which shall drive us in the decades to come. I welcome all of you to today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the welcome address. The Delhi High Court set up the IP division for exclusively dealing with IPR cases in February last year. The said division, which is first of its kind in India, was presided over by Honorable Justice Pratibha M. Singh, Honorable Justice Naveen Chawla, and Honorable Justice Jyoti Singh. The IP division has now completed 1 year. In order to tell you about the performance of the IP division, I now request Honorable Justice Pratibha M. Singh to present the report on 1 year of IP division.
Very good evening to all of you. Warmest greetings on World Intellectual Property Day today to each and all, one and all. And a special greetings to all the women in the room, because today's theme is on women and IP, accelerating innovation and creativity. As you all may be aware, the WIPO Convention came to be formed on this day in 1970. And since then, the World IP Day is being celebrated on 26th April every year. And talking about the IP division itself, the IP division was set up as an exclusive IP division almost a year ago in February of 2023. And it is our proud privilege to announce that after the Delhi High Court has set up the IP division, the Madras High Court has recently set up the IP division as well. And we really hope that this will be going forward in several high courts across the country. The well-known Nobel laureate Douglas C. North, who is an economist, said that institutions reduce uncertainty by providing a structure to everyday life. And I can proudly say that the IP division has provided the structure for IP adjudication in India itself. To lead us and to celebrate us today, celebrate this day with us today, we have Justice Hema Kohli, dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It is a great privilege to be commemorating this day today and to put up before you the annual report for the IP division. More than 2,000 cases were received from the IPAB. When the IPAB was abolished, at least I personally thought that we were all in a crisis. But it's because of the leadership of this court, including the Chief Justice at that time, the full court, all the judges, that the Delhi High Court took this momentous decision to set up the IP division. The IPAB sent us more than 2,000 cases, and I can say that almost 600 cases have already been disposed of by the IP division. In addition, the fresh filing before the IP division would show that compared to previous years, the setting up of this division has resulted in approximately 650 fresh IP suits being filed in 1 year in our High Court. So we've had 3 exclusive benches dealing with these matters. More than 45% of the appeals which were received on patents have been disposed of. More than 2/3 of all the original petitions of patents have been disposed of. Out of 270 trademark petitions received, more than 100 have been disposed of. In terms of suits, writs, and appeals, the Delhi High Court saw more than 1,000 cases filed before it afresh this year, and 750 plus cases were disposed of as a cumulative number. All this has been possible due to the dedicated IP division, which has brought in consistency, clarity, coupled with efficiency to the cause itself. The Delhi High Court also has the unique feature of having a dedicated IP appellate division, which has also resulted in the disposal of more than 35 appeals in 1 year. The interesting part is, more than 700 cases being disposed of, there are only 60 appeals which were filed, which is I think, a very big stamp of acceptance to the decisions of the IP division. The establishment of the IP division has not merely seen high rate of disposal, but the filing in the IP division has also increased, and therefore the litigation has become more and more robust. The biggest seal of approval to the Delhi High Court's IP division was given by the Joint Parliamentary Standing Committee. When the IPAB was abolished, the committee in fact reported that the committee desires the abolition of a prominent appellate body which should be reconsidered in the wake of its pivotal role in adjudication. However, this report and recommendation was changed by the parliamentary committee. Now the parliamentary committee which finally recommends said this: it opines that establishing an IP division with dedicated IP benches as done by the Delhi High Court in the wake of the abolition of the IPAB would ensure effective resolution of IP cases on a timely basis. The committee therefore recommends that the government should take appropriate measures to encourage setting up of IP division in high courts for providing an alternative resolution and solution to resolve IPR cases. So this has become the biggest seal of approval that the Delhi High Court got in respect of establishment of its IP division. Going forward, in view of the recent decisions of the Supreme Court, which were rendered last year and this year, as you will see from the report which is written in the annual report which is circulated today, you will see that almost all the courts in the country, I mean the high courts, who have the power to deal with patents and design cases, would be requiring to set up IP divisions. And therefore, the vision would be that at least 10 to 15 high courts in the country should have IP divisions. There can be a national panel of scientific advisors which can be consulted by commercial courts, IP division judges, so that whenever there's a technical matter which comes before any commercial judge, that panel can be consulted and any expert's help under Section 115 or any of the other rules of the IP division can be consulted. There are using of modern methods such as hot tubbing, transcription of cross-examination, etc. can be used in the IP division. This is the report on the IP division, but now I need to move to something which is close to my heart, and that is this. Considering the theme of the IP Day today, women in India have made strides, but there are some points that we need to highlight and remember so that we can solve them. More than 45 to 50% of women, of graduates in science in India, are women. More than 55% of postgraduates in science are women. However, research papers would show that only 3% of the total peer-reviewed journals are written by women. That means half the science graduates of our country are not being used in research and innovation. This is a very big vacuum or a very, very big drawback that we need to overcome. and the best IP minds would have to do that. And that's why we are here to celebrate today the IP division with two of the best innovators and one of the best entrepreneurs in IP, who are all women with us today. In my own view, a large number of women innovators and researchers in the world, whether it's the lady Virginia Apgar, who made the Apgar score, whether it was Stephanie Kwolak, who developed the Kevlar fabric, whether it's laser Fabco probe, which was developed by Patricia Bath, none of them are given the recognition equally as their male counterparts. So there is a need for encouraging more and more women in innovation, in research, in scientific journals, in peer-reviewed articles, and so that more women innovators can even file patents. Lastly, I would like to share with you a recent feather in the cap for the Indian IP system. The WIPO has released the International Guide to Patent Case Management for Judges. This patent case management guide has been authored by judges from 10 different jurisdictions, and India is one of the jurisdictions from where the patent guide has been authored. And this has happened under the leadership of Justice Madan B. Lokur, who was engaged by the Berkeley University. And the authors were Justice Gautam Patel, Justice Manmohan Singh, who is here, and myself, along with a team of lawyers and researchers. This has put IP on the global map in terms of case management for judges, and it's a proper guide which is available online. This was launched just a week ago, and I wanted to update the audience about that. I would like to end my address by using the Sanskrit shloka, Udyamehi Siddhyanti Karyanina Manorathe. So it's only by working hard and through dedication that we can fulfill our aspirations. And the setting up of the IP division, in my view, the credit of this goes to the leadership of this court, the forward-looking judges who have presided on it in the past, who are presiding on it currently, and who will preside on it in the future, as also the registry of this court, who has really made it possible, even during the pandemic, when bags and bags of files were received from the IPAB, they took all the effort during the pandemic to scan them, to put them in place, and to list them before the judges. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining today. Thank you.
As we can see, IP division has made tremendous progress in a short span of 1 year. Thank you, ma'am, for illuminating the gathering with the achievements of IP division in last 1 year. The current IP division is now presided over by Honorable Justice C. Harishankar, Honorable Justice Sanjeev Nirula, and Honorable Justice Amit Bansal. I request Honorable Justice C. Harishankar to share his perspective on the developments and challenges in IP law.
My Lord Honorable Justice Hima Kohli, My Lord Justice Amanullah, My Lord Honorable the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, my learned brother and sister judges, eminent personalities on the dais, off the dais. Actually, in my write-up in the IP report, you would find that I started by saying that I have chanced on IP. I have become an IP. My romance with IP is purely by chance. It happened that I was appointed as an IP division, as an original site judge in March 2020, and Corona struck, and it was not possible to change the roster. And for 2 years, for better or for worse, I found it for better. I don't know for the others, but I was part of that IP division, and then it's continued, and it's an abiding romance, and I think it will continue. Whatever happens, it will continue. I can say with some amount of justification that it is the best roster I have sat on. Whether I deserve it or not, I don't know, but it is the best roster I have sat on. Now, this topic which has been chosen for today was actually my idea, and after I chose it, I have cursed myself at least 20 times for having chosen it. because it is a topic on which you can speak for hours if we talk about developments and challenges in IP law. So on developments, there will be several people speaking here, so I'm not going to waste your time on that. So I just noted down a few points which I feel in whatever time I have spent on the IPT, I feel there are some issues on which still the law needs to develop. There are, of course, many issues which are now more or less settled, but there are some issues on which the law still needs to develop. So I have just flagged a few of those issues because I know there are eminent IP personalities here. All the leaders of the IP bar are here who know probably 10 times what I know about IP. So it's only for them and for maybe my brother and sister judges who are now sitting on the division and who will sit later, that I am just flagging these points, which I think are still points which are challenges in IP law for which come before us almost on a daily basis. And I am still grappling with some of them. Of course, I have tried my best to stay away from giving any opinion on the subjects which are before me. I can't do that, but I'm still putting the points which I think require consideration. So I just identified some of the issues. One of the first points which recently came to my notice, especially in the Aradhya Bachchan matter, which came before me 3-4 days back, was accountability of intermediaries. You see, this has been a kind of a ball throwing this way, that way for quite some time. Intermediaries say that they have got their freedoms, they have got the liberty which Shreya Singhal gives them, and there are provisions in the IT Act. But in October 2022, the Parliament there has been a change. There has been a paradigm change in Rule 3 of the Intermediaries IP Guidelines Rules, the Intermediaries Guidelines Rules, which earlier the rule where it said that the intermediary, because that will affect all the intermediaries across the board, the intermediary shall inform its rules and regulations, privacy policy, and user agreement to the user in English or any language specified in the 8th schedule, etc. And earlier the rule only required that the intermediary tells the user to draw up an agreement by which he will confirm that he will not post anything which is objectionable. I mean, to sort of put it in a capsule. But now it says, and shall make reasonable efforts to cause the user of the computer resource not to host, display, upload, modify, publish, transmit, store, update, or share any information. Now, this is now, as I see it, going to become a major issue. In fact, in another matter which came before me, some intermediaries actually raised this point, saying that this may be a problem for us because we can ask a user not to upload problematic material. If someone uploads problematic material and it is brought to our notice, we can forthwith bring it down. But to say that we should take efforts to see that the material is not hosted may be something very difficult for us, and it also goes much beyond Shreya Singhal, etc. So that is one of the points which I think in times to come is going to be a matter which has to be debated. And again, we find that in that parenthesis of the various types of material which are covered, we have everything starting from material harmful to children, pornographic material, child pornographic material, material which is deleterious to security, as well as things like defamation, infringement. So whether all of this can be brought into one bracket is again another aspect which might be. So one of the first issues which I think will be a challenge in IP adjudication in days to come will be how to balance the new amended Rule 3 of the Intermediary IP Guidelines rules with the rights of intermediaries under the IT Act vis-a-vis Shreya Singhal. So that's one point I wanted to flag. The second point is something on which I have said this repeatedly in the court. I know that it is something which many people don't find very palatable, that I still have my reservations on this aspect of territorial jurisdiction, where we are dealing with websites which are with websites, etc. We have essentially, as of today, there are 6 judgments. So far as the Delhi High Court is concerned, there are 6 judgments which hold sway. We have the Supreme Court judgment in Dhoda House, we have the Supreme Court judgment in IPRS, And then, so far as division benches of the Delhi High Court are concerned, if we go chronologically, we first have Banyan Tree, then we have World Wrestling Entertainment, then we have this Ultra Home, and then we have Tata Sons. So these are essentially, I think, the 6 judgments on which this dispute is revolving. Even as on today, I find there is a difference in views of division benches on whether Banyan Tree applies to an infringement case or Banyan Tree applies only to passing off. So that is one of the aspects which has to be looked into. One division bench has said it applies to both, two say that it doesn't. So that's one of the issues which arises. Then we come across cases where in fact, there are some matters which come before us where the website is not a commercial website, in the sense it's not a website across which you can conclude a commercial transaction with the user. It may be a website which is just providing information. Then what happens in such cases? So these are again, this whole aspect of jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction vis-a-vis this websites which are on the internet and which deal with either just disseminate information or provide commercial transactions is something on which I think the last word is yet to be said. The third point on which which is again, I think, a point which will involve debate in days to come, is with designs. Now, on design law, unfortunately, we have just one Supreme Court judgment, which is Bharat Steel Tubes, rendered 15 years ago. There is no other decision of the Supreme Court on designs. And if we look at the Designs Act, there are several provisions of the Act. We don't have the time to go into all that. But there are several provisions of the Act which do need elucidation. For example, prior publication is treated as one of the grounds to say that a design is vulnerable to invalidity, but publication is not defined. So then we go into what is publication, and then on that there is again law. I came across a case just 3-4 days back. I passed the judgment last week, where we had a very unique case. It was a design registration for a pressure cooker. And it turned out that there were 6 pressure cookers, all covered by one certificate of registration. And one had a cover and 6 of them didn't have covers. 5 of them didn't have covers. So the question that arose was whether 6 pressure cookers can be covered by one design registration. Now, unfortunately, the Designs Act did not help me on that. So I cooked up some kind of it was re integra for me. So I somehow worked it out, and I don't know whether what I said is right or wrong, but I ultimately said it's a valid registration. So many issues keep coming up in Designs Act which still need some kind of, ironing out. The creases have to be ironed out. Then we come to patents. I won't bore you for more than 2 minutes more. Then we come to patents. In patents, of course, one of the major issues that comes up is Novartis, the perennial disclosure versus coverage imbroglio, where we have still to reach, I think, neutral ground on that. There are some benches with decisions which say that coverage implies disclosure, some which says coverage doesn't imply disclosure, and then whether coverage is something which can be, if it is not disclosed, is it the same as infringement? Is something which is disclosed something which can form basis of an infringement claim? These are all issues which will arise, all arising. Unfortunately, again, we have just one judgment from the Supreme Court, that is Novartis, and Novartis has been dissected, vivisected, you name it what you will, ad nauseum. And so I am still waiting for a final word on that. Meanwhile, I will propound my views, others will propound their views, and then we'll wait for better minds to guide us on that subject. So that's the fourth thing. The fifth thing which I find, and this is something which really disturbs me, and in the last this last month or so, it is something which should actually engage the governmental authorities as well. The quality of orders which are coming to us from the patent office is really something to be concerned about. Not one of them is grammatically correct. Let's forget about that. I mean, you can't, I can't frankly even understand most of what is written in those orders. It is an effort to find out what is the reasoning. There are 3 cases which have come before us, 2 which I have handled, 1 which Justice Narula has handled, where the officer has just picked up cut-paste from document to document, and then at the end said, this is my conclusion. So I mean, it's very unfortunate, and Mr. Vaidyanathan is here. He is the one who appears in most of these matters. I will again implore him. I've told him in court also, please to tell the patent office authorities that they should be more serious about it. Patents, whether it is granting of a patent or refusal of a patent, the commercial ramifications are colossal, and there can't be any short shrift about it. So sometimes, I mean, one doesn't want to say more than one should in these things, but it's very unsatisfactory, the kind of orders we are dealing with. And he and me both struggle when we deal with these matters. Both of us struggle to figure out what the order ultimately says. Then there is a fifth point which I don't want to speak much about because it is something which is sub judice and I don't want to speak about it. I'll just flag the point, and that is that sometimes we find some challenges in harmonizing IP cases with our procedural provisions in Indian jurisprudence. Now, that is something which may have to be, because that is actually a way of kind of bringing a synergy between international IP law and IP law which we are administering domestically, and that some kind of a synergy has to be reached. But I'm not saying more about that because it is something which is pending before both single judges and the appellate court. So I don't want to say anything more about that. Another point which Justice Pratibha would, of course, be very, that's one of the points very close to her heart, I know, is this habit of overseas domain name registrants refusing to obey Indian orders. And I know Justice Pratibha Singh is dealing with a batch of those cases. We find various cases where we say that domain names should be blocked, and we find that if the domain name registrant is situated somewhere in the US, he says, take a walk. You either get me an order from the US court or I'm not going to do anything about it. And then how to handle that, how to bring him to book, how to see that the order is implemented is a real challenge. And I think all bodies, governmental bodies, have now been brought into it, and the ICANN agreements are being seen, whether some kind of strictures could proceed under that. That is another aspect which has to be seen. Now, these are just some of the issues which I thought I would flag. It is, as I said, a topic on which, if given time, one can speak for a day. There is such a lot to speak on IP law, and I am still studying the subject. People here know 10 times more than me. So whatever I have learned from this is what I somehow found, that these are points which do arise for consideration. So thank you very much. I am least deserving of giving this address, especially when people like Pratibha and others here who are literally doyens of IP, especially all the people here, Mr. Subramaniam, Mr. Hemant Singh. I mean, how many people do we name? So Mr. Anand. So I thank all of them from the bottom of my heart. I thank all of you for having made my journey in the IPD comfortable. It was something, in fact, when Justice Jyoti Singh joined as a judge, she was asking me with some trepidation, how am I going to manage? This is not a subject I know. I said, please don't bother. The bar is such a superb bar that they will make you feel that you are an IP professional from day one onwards. And it has been a pleasure. It has been an immense pleasure, real immense pleasure sitting in this jurisdiction. I am very sorry if anything I have done or said in this jurisdiction has not been correct. I can only say I have been bona fide, and I hope if I do make a mistake, I implore all the IP Council to point it out straight away. There are no bars in that. Thank you very much for allowing me to address this gathering. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the insights and concerns on the subject. The World Intellectual Property Organization celebrates the World IP Day with a unique theme every year. The theme for this year is Women in IP, Accelerating Innovation and Creativity. On this special day, Delhi High Court has decided to felicitate women innovators. May I now request Honorable Justice Siddharth Midul to introduce women innovators in our gathering.
Good evening. Mercifully, unlike as it has been for Hari, this is not an extended work day. Right. The pleasurable task assigned to me is to felicitate two brilliant women innovators who are present amongst us on the occasion of the World Intellectual Property Organization Day. It is my pleasure to welcome back Justice Hema Kohli, Judge Supreme Court of India, my esteemed sister. Justice Amanullah, who I see in the gathering. Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, the Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court. Justice Yashwant Verma, the Chair of the IP Division Committee. Justice Pratibha M. Singh, who is, as always, at the forefront of anything to do with intellectual property. Justice C. Hari Shankar, who, as he put it, is still in the process of learning the ropes and taking a walk, as he put it. I don't know if that you can copyright that, take a walk. Yeah. Anyway, so I also, it's my great pleasure to invite all my brothers and sisters, including retired judges of this court, who I've spent, and I reminisce about those times, wonderful times with. Ladies and gentlemen, I will come directly to the reason for my address, which is to honor the women entrepreneurs and acknowledge their immense contribution to the intellectual property ecosystem through their innovation and creativity. I would, of course, it would be remiss on my part not to emphasize and commend the path-breaking role played by the Indian judiciary, and in particular the Delhi High Court, in creating an all-round, robust and dedicated IP division. The IP division has, despite all challenges, including COVID, that were within its orbit, yielded commendable results, not just in adjudicating all subject-related pending matters, but determining important issues, which have gone on to lay the framework for IP jurisdiction in the country. Going back to the issue of women innovators, we all know that at the turn of the 18th century, the Industrial Revolution really gave birth to the modern IP ecosystem. Major scientific breakthroughs were born out of the struggle that were led by inventors, both men and women, who wanted to benefit humankind with inventions and innovations. Sadly, even today, as we enter the fourth industrial revolution, the share of women inventors in international patent applications is reported to be only 16.5%. Therefore, surely, today's felicitation is salutary for achieving equality of gender in the modern IP ecosystem, as it seeks to acknowledge women innovators who have bravely overcome systemic barriers and are a source of inspiration to us all with their path-breaking work. I'm sure their pioneering work would inspire future generations of innovators. These women innovators have taken the lead in transforming the way in which their role is realized. India's recent past has showcased capabilities of women in all areas, particularly the space and the medical sector, encapsulating the ever-increasing role of women innovators come entrepreneurs in leading trailblazing programs which have put India on the global map. It is my proud privilege to introduce two brilliant women innovators. Firstly, I would like to welcome Ms. Nandini Harinath, who has achieved distinction as a scientist with ISRO for the last over 25 years. with an acknowledged specialization in mission design and spacecraft operations, it is to her credit that the Mars Orbiter mission, which was launched on board PSLV C-25 on the 5th of November 2013, that Mangalyaan was inserted into the orbit of Mars on the 24th of September 2014 in its very first attempt, and making India proud by being the first country in the world to do so successfully in its very first attempt. This mission is arguably one of the finest examples of a women-led innovation in India, where several women scientists played a significant role in India's maiden mission to Mars. Ms. Harinath was at the center of this mission as its Deputy Operations Director, overseeing all operations and control from Earth onto Mars. Apart from being a part of the Mars Orbiter mission, Ms. Harinath has also essayed the role of the mission director for ISRO's first high-resolution radar imaging satellite constellation called RISAT-2B series, and was also the mission system lead in a collaboration mission with NASA called NISAR. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. Needless to state that Ms. Harinath has received various awards and accolades and has contributed immensely in the world of science. Some of her notable recognitions include the Team Excellence Award for Radar Imaging Satellite RISAT-1 in the year 2012. They also include the India Today Women in Science Award 2015, the Kannada Mahila Ratna Award in March 2017, the Astronautical Society of India Space Gold Medal in 2019, as well as the fact that she was appointed to the Board of Governors for Maulana Azad National Institute of Technology, Bhopal, by the Education Ministry. Thank you for being here today, Ms. Harinath. It is then my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Suchitra Ella, founder of Bharat Biotech. Welcome. There is no need to underline that COVID-19 created formidable barriers for the medical industry. Picking up that gauntlet that COVID-19 threw at the world at large, India, with amazing alacrity, became self-sufficient in vaccine production. As at that very moment, although the saying is, cometh the hour, cometh the man, in this case it was cometh the hour, cometh the woman. And Ms. Suchitra Ella shone forth as a beacon of hope. Bharat Biotech came up with an indigenous vaccine called Covaxin. The speed of production and distribution of the vaccine was one of the reasons why India was able to effectively tackle the spread of the virus and also assist our neighbors in tackling the same. Bharat Biotech has indeed come a long way to become one of the leaders of the Indian vaccine industry, one that has made the world sit up and take notice. And at the forefront is its founder, Ms. Suchitra Ella, who is, as I said, present amongst us today. Ms. Ella has taken the lead in transforming Bharat Biotech into a company that innovates and meets the challenges brought on by rapidly changing medical requirements. Ms. Ella has evidently provided strategic leadership in the successful development of Covaxin, saving numerous lives within and without the country. Covaxin has also catapulted India to a medical superpower in vaccine research and development. Ms. Ella, I must invite your attention to, has been instrumental in the development of 17 vaccines, including the nasal vaccine that she just mentioned before when we gathered. 2 drops of each is recommended for all those who've taken the booster dose, is what I was asked to inform you. Under her leadership, Bharat Biotech has established an excellent track record of innovation with more than 145 global patents. It has a wide product portfolio of more than 16 vaccines, 4 biotherapeutics, and registrations in more than 120 countries. Ms. Ella has been bestowed with numerous awards, including the Padma Bhushan in 2022, the South Indian Business Achievers Award in the year 2016, and the FICCI Influential Women Award for outstanding contribution to the biotech industry. So on this momentous occasion, on behalf of the Delhi High Court and the entire judicial family, the legal fraternity, I extend a warm welcome to both Ms. Nandini Harinath for her contribution in making the Mangalyaan a success and launching India's space industry into a new vista, and Ms. Suchitra Ella in recognition of her contribution to the innovation and creativity through her leadership of Bharat Biotech. We commend, congratulate, and welcome you here for all your accomplishments and strides made towards the betterment of the Indian scientific community. Thank you. I was thinking of an appropriate concluding quote when Pratibha mentioned something in Sanskrit, and I immediately recalled one by Walt Disney, who said that if you can dream it, you can do it. Yeah? Jai Hind, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. In the background of this introduction, I request Mrs. Suchitra Ella, co-founder and joint managing director, Bharat Biotech, to please join us on stage for her felicitation. I request our guest of honor, Honorable Justice Hema Kohli, to felicitate Mrs. Suchitra Ella. Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you, ma'am. I request Madam Suchitra to please share her experience with us. Ma'am, please share your experience with us.
Namaskar and a very good afternoon. Almost we are, I think, close to the evening. Honorable Justice Satish Chandra Sharma ji, Honorable Justice Siddharth Pradul ji, Honorable Justice Yashwant Verma ji, Honorable Justice Pratibha Singh ji, Honorable Justice Hari Shankar ji, and Honorable Justice Naveen Chawla ji, all the distinguished justices who are on the Tribunal Reforms and IP Division Committee, and the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are present here today. This is indeed a great honor to be present here amidst all of you in the iconic High Court of Delhi. I'm truly humbled to be in this august presence of the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, all the honorable justices that I have just mentioned, and also, of course, the Honorable Minister for Commerce, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, Honorable Justice Ms. Hema Kohli of the Supreme Court of India, whom we also very fondly remember of her days in Telangana as the Chief Justice of the Telangana High Court. And my industry peer, Debjani Ghosh, the president of NASSCOM, are all well-known luminaries in their respective fields. It is a privilege to be in the midst of their company. The World Intellectual Property Day is an opportunity for us to celebrate creators and inventors worldwide and explore how IP contributes and drives technological innovation in shaping our country and the world across. I'm humbled and honored to be felicitated on this occasion by the High Court of Delhi for our contribution to the country's efforts in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic by developing Covaxin, India's only indigenous vaccine and the fifth country in the world, putting India as the fifth country in the world to have developed its own vaccine for a pandemic. And all this happened in a path-breaking record time of under 9 months. This journey began with me, for us, as a vision that I shared along with my husband, who is also the co-founder of Bharat Biotech International Limited, Dr. Krishna Ella, when we returned to India in 1996 from the United States to set up Bharat Biotech. We had the strength of conviction to come back to India more than 25 years ago to establish a company that was based on IP and knowledge, innovation and cutting-edge technologies in the public healthcare space. India was 50 then. India was also then known only for generic drug manufacturers and contract manufacturing services, and not known for new molecules, research, development, or new technologies. Our vision and the mission of the company was to develop innovative remedies for developing world healthcare challenges, develop and deliver intellectual property for the country, bring affordability to the common man, provide the best of technologies with world-class quality. That journey has then successfully led us to have developed more than 17 different vaccines for both pediatrics and in the adult segments, delivered over 5 billion doses of vaccines to the poorest of countries and the most undeserved populations in over 123 developing countries through UNICEF, Gavi, and the international agencies and other funding organizations that procure them annually. In innovation, our world's first typhoid conjugate vaccine was put on the global map when India could do this way back in 2016, when we came out with the first conjugate vaccine for typhoid, which could be given from a 6-month-old baby to a 65-year-old adult. So this was a huge leap of strength in terms of how we could research, how we could innovate, how we could do product development in our country as well, and then, of course, demonstrate it in scientific peer-reviewed journals, publish them, and have them accepted in other world-class institutions to be on par with the rest of the world in all parameters. The next, of course, came, and then followed by Rotavac in 2015, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji. India made the third rotavirus vaccine in the world. And that, again, from the first of its kind from the developing world as well. So I think these strengths have really taken our own strengths and our own ways of how we could look at challenges that are faced in our part of the world, in infectious diseases especially, which is very challenging and very time is of a huge constraint which comes in front of us. Of course, funding is another huge constraint as well. But I think time is of the essence, and the scientific acumen and the scientific template and the passion and the vision to, to catch the bull by its horns and move forward in such challenging environments or the timeframes that we were in. And COVID-19 was just another such example which just came in front of us when we could, I don't know how we did it, but fast-tracked 3,000 employees, 4 sites across the country, Hyderabad in Telangana, Bangalore, Karnataka, Pune in Maharashtra, and Ankleshwar, Gujarat. 4 sites worked 24/7 in order to put Covaxin on the map of India and to have it distributed across to every nook and corner in the public service, in the public distribution system. Followed by which the nasal vaccine, which was also launched this January 23rd, is also the first nasal vaccine from the world. It's the first nasal vaccine, and which is already available again in the private markets and in the private hospital ecosystem that is available as a booster dose to be taken, which prevents the infection from even entering when it does at the nose and at the at the face at the level where it infects us, because that was the primary source of contamination and infection to spread into the lungs and to the respiratory systems. So we wanted to develop a vaccine which could be also easily administered to the populations that we have. A 1 billion population is not a joke, again, as all of us know this. And multiplying it into 2 or 3 doses becomes 2 billion or 3 billion doses of vaccines. I mean, this is not heard of in any part of the world, whether it is the US or Europe or Japan or Korea. None of the developed nations have this kind of numbers to tackle and the challenges to face in terms of the diversity that we have and the population demographics that we have in our country. So the nasal vaccine becomes extremely important because it will be very easy to administer. The ASHA workers and the public healthcare workers can take it across in their mobile vans and take it to villages and large communities and to employees and organizations, and it can be administered right in their premises rather than the entire population going to hospitals and clinics and primary healthcare centers and so on and so forth. So this by itself is another huge step in terms of how we as a country and as an organization could innovate in this manner in order to ensure that such technologies be available for our demographics as well. At Bharat Biotech, this unique ecosystem was started from the day one because, as I said, we were a startup ecosystem back in 1996, and a day has not gone by when we don't innovate. We dream, we breathe, and we live in innovation. And to the extent that we are very proud to create our own IP and not have it borrowed or brought in from other parts of the world. This is unique, and it's got many, many process and product patents that we could have developed from this part of the world, and we now continue to engage, collaborate, partner with many private and public sector undertakings and organizations, not only in India, but also in the rest of the world. The Gates Foundation is one such very big example that has funded the rotavirus vaccine development project, which took on for almost 15 to 17 years to develop it into a world-class vaccine. And that came out of a public-private partnership with the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And Covaxin came with a partnership with the ICMR, the National Institute of Virology in Pune, having worked closely in terms of academic research and partnerships and collaborators such as these across the country and around the world, takes us into that level of bringing out world-class technologies and world-class innovations that not only will help our country in its future and in the times to come, but also I'm sure there are now, it's very exciting for us to be partnering with other organizations and countries from other parts of the world as well in order to take these technologies across in many areas. Patenting and, of course, IP has brought us a lot of credit. We have first filed the chikungunya and the Zika virus vaccine IP was filed from India. The rest of the world was wondering how this happened and how this came from India. So this is how we have looked at taking science and academic research into the next orbit of process development and product development and clinical research, which was not happening in our country as much, in order to develop new products and processes as we go along. I just would like to point out by saying that when COVID-19 struck us, we were for a month grappling with what we need to do as an organization. And we were just, we were not waiting for some other vaccine or some other country to come and save us from this pandemic that was just hitting us and, bombarding us from all across the world. At the research and scientific community, we work with many universities across in the United States and in Europe or in other parts of the world. But we were all trying to understand how we build a vaccine from within India. And that's when we, as an organization, and I must thank my chairman, executive chairman, Dr. Krishna Ayala, who wrote to the Director General of ICMR, to Dr. Bhargava at that time, asking him to give us strains of the COVID-19 virus. And this was transported in 2 cars from Pune to Hyderabad, because we were out of the cargo. We were in lockdown 1, and there was nothing moving across the country. And our own 4 scientists from our organization drove to Pune, collected the SARS-19, COVID-19 viruses, live viruses in -70, drove them back to Hyderabad, and walked into our BSL-3 contamination bioprocess chambers with the virus samples in their hand. And that's how the whole story of saga of Covaxin unfolded, and created a vaccine in 45 days from there on. And this goes to show that the scientific temperament exists in our youngsters. We just need to give them the ecosystem. We need to give them the actual, the way to look at science for solving our own problems, if we can first, and then also later on take it to the other parts of the world that also needs this kind of solutions. Today, I think India is looked upon as the pharmacy of the world. We have shown that in many respects, in many ways of reaching out to many countries across the world by also distributing our vaccine under the Vaccine Maitri initiative that the Honorable Prime Minister had undertaken. And we as Indian manufacturers have been extremely proud and honored to have been a part of that kind of an initiative, that we could send our vaccines to not only to our own states and our own parts of the country, but also to the other parts of the world. A small example that I would like to end with is by saying that at Bharat, I think I probably lead it at the helm of the company, but I also would like to just mention here that the director and head of research, scientific research and development is also, she is the chief scientific officer, she's the head of research, running trials on Zika and chikungunya viruses and on human papilloma virus and many other such pathogens that exist in the world today. The head of medical affairs and clinical trials and product development is again led by women. There are manufacturing suites which are of world-class standards, and these are again led by a couple of the products that are made in our facilities are led by women. So there are many, many areas where I think in science and technology, I think there is no dearth where women can be brought to the center stage with the right kind of skill set and mindset that needs to be given to them in order to excel and contribute back to the industry, back to the nation, and back to society at large. And I think that's very important, that we have to encourage our youngsters From the high school onwards, I think that is important, that we need to show them that this kind of a path in career building, and telling them that universities and educational centers will also have to take a larger role in terms of bringing in science and technology and innovation and IP, because this is something that we cannot miss out. What started at India at a 50 for us way back in 1998. I'm very proud here to be standing in front of you when India is at a 75, that we have been able to shake the world with our technologies, whether it is space or whether it is IT or whether it is healthcare or whether it is pharmaceuticals or in any other aspect. But I think India at 100, we should be in the top 3 countries of the world in terms of how we look at IP and how we take forward the technologies, the repository of information that we can assimilate and take India forward in that aspect as well. With that, I think this is something phenomenal for me to be here in the midst of such stalwarts and dignitaries who have given this kind of opportunity for me to stand in front of all of you. I would not be standing here but for the 300-400 other women who are in my organization working round the clock, who never complained and never said that they would not come to work during the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, all of us were working, our war rooms and our, was created in our own boardrooms, which became our war rooms and control rooms, so that we could effectively be physically present with all of them, women who chose to come even in the second and third shifts in order to get Covaxin out in less than nine months of a time frame. This is amazing to have been here with all of you this evening and share a few of my thoughts. And I hope and I wish that India will lead the way when India is at 100, to be on the top bracket of those countries that will continue to give out the best IP and the innovation and the technologies that the future is yet to see. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. It is indeed a proud moment for me to now invite Mrs. Nandini Harinath, one of the lead engineers in ISRO for the Mars mission, to kindly come on stage for her felicitation. I request our Chief Guest, Mr. Piyush Goyal, and Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Chief Justice, Delhi High Court, to felicitate Mrs. Nandini Harinath. Thank you, sir. I request Madam Nandini to please share her experience on being part of the Mars mission.
Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal ji, Honorable Justice Ms. Hima Kohli, Honorable Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Honorable Justice Ms. Pratibha Singh, all the honorable judges on and off the dais, the dignitaries and my dear friends, and of course Suchitra Ilam ma'am and Debjani ma'am, namaskar. And I just feel I'm not sure I deserve to be here. The only reason I probably qualify to be here is because I work for this esteemed organization which is delivering cutting-edge technologies and launching missions that is capturing the imagination of the common man. And of course, it's serving the nation's needs in terms of applications for the society. So I was really wondering what I should speak on, and Pratibha ma'am had given me 5 minutes. So it's not about IP. And anyway, by the way, warm IP Day greetings to all of you. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey in ISRO. So I joined ISRO about 27 years back, and that time I was working in a group called Mission Planning and Analysis. So this group actually it designs the mission, say what kind of orbits the satellite should be in, what kind of payloads and how they should be operated, and then it plans for the mission operations, and after the launch takes care of the satellite till it's commissioned and finally gives the satellites to the users. So obviously there weren't many women way back then in 1995 when I joined. So the reason was that this required, the satellite geometry is such that they can come over your station in day and night. So it required not only long hours, but it required irregular hours. But then today, if you look at our group, women, it's an irony that women who were, it was considered a difficult job at that point of time. Women have established themselves as the most dependable people who can take over the mission jobs. So today we have project directors, we have mission directors who are women who've led some of the most prestigious missions that ISRO has had. So this is a little bit about ISRO. But then having said that, I just want to say that ISRO is one place, where it really doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Once you're in a lab coat, in a lab, it's all the same. All that matters is how much you can deliver. You deliver, you're there. So the fact that, the things that we hear about discrimination or anything, no such thing ever happens. So if you're really good at the job, so you get the project. So there's another great thing about ISRO, which I must tell you all, is that, other places people shy away from work. Here, actually, people fight for projects. So people are eagerly waiting, when the next big project would come up, and then people would wonder, okay, if at all they get an opportunity to work for such missions. So I must say I was very lucky to be a part of this Mars mission. And Mars mission had its own challenges. I'm sure all of you read a lot about this mission. And one of the most complicated missions ever done in the shortest possible time. So we had about 18 months from the time the project was sanctioned to the time the launch happened. That's because of the geometry. So the Sun, Earth, Mars geometry was most favorable, and with least amount of fuel, the satellite could reach Mars only if it's launched in that 18 or whatever launch window as we call it. So if you miss that opportunity, we would be pushed ahead by 2 more years. So there's this team of people who were selected to work for the Mars mission, and I was lucky, I must say, and I happened to be one of them. We started at ground zero. So it was all about learning from scratch how an interplanetary mission works, how it can be designed, the hardware. All the hardware that we had ever built was all about managing satellites around the Earth. And of course, we had gone to the moon, but that's just few lakhs of kilometers. Here you had to build a satellite that would survive 400 million kilometers away. And 400 million kilometers away, you need to talk to the satellite, you need to command, you need to give instructions. And even with speed of light, the distance to 400 million kilometers, it takes about 22 minutes. So it's like, talking to you, I talk to you, and you hear my voice after 22 minutes, and then you reply to me, and I hear it after another 22 minutes. So it called for a totally different paradigm of mission operations. So what we done was, the satellite was built such that it was totally autonomous. It could take care of its health, in the sense every system would check whether it was all right, in terms of hardware and software, and make sure that if something went wrong, the satellite had the capability to take care of itself. So that was a kind of autonomy that was built in. So one was the autonomy, another was the navigation itself. So we're trying to reach Mars. When the satellite left Earth, the distance from Earth to Mars was about 225 million kilometers. So, it's more like a rendezvous problem because all these objects are moving. So when the satellite had to leave the Earth's sphere of influence or the Earth's gravity in a particular direction with a particular velocity, because if it didn't reach Mars at the designated time, it would miss Mars and just got lost in the solar system. So it had to have a precision of, we were trying to target a box of 50 kilometers from a distance of 225 million kilometers. Like a lot of people said, I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard it before, it's like hitting a golf ball from, say, Delhi to Washington, and then you expect the golf ball to fall in a bucket in Washington, and then the bucket itself is moving. So that was a kind of precision that was required. And yeah, so, and what to tell you about the hardware had to be built so that it could survive the Martian environment. Though Mars was pretty much similar in terms of the way the weather manifested, the thermal conditions were entirely different. So this was another challenging thing that we faced. So now all that done, for any space scientist, the most difficult part of our job is to expect the unexpected. So there's, you can do a zillion simulations on the ground, but there's always a surprise element somewhere. And there's something that will strike you. And I think the best thing about ISRO is that ISRO can come up with solutions on the fly. So any kind of situation that you face, you always have a salvage or an option wherein you can recover from that situation. So thinking out of the box, coming up with innovative solutions on the fly, I think that is something, all that put together made the mission a big success. So that's about the Mars mission. I'm sure my 5 minutes is up. So I could go on and on because this is something that I really like to talk about. But ISRO also has done many, many more challenging missions. There's one thing that many of you have not heard. In 2007, ISRO did a re-entry capsule, like it recovered an entire satellite in one piece. The satellite had survived and communicated to us till its touchdown. It was recovered and brought back, the Space Capsule Recovery Experiment. That's another very prestigious project I was a part of. So yeah, so that's about ISRO and that's about the work we do. Thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me. And thank you all for your patient hearing. And this recognition and opportunity only pushes us to do better things, explore the universe better, and come up with more challenging and exciting missions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. The Indian IT industry has made our country extremely proud with its achievements and contribution. To tell us about NASSCOM and the role of women in IT industry, we have none other than Ms. Debjani Ghosh, the president of NASSCOM. She is a veteran of the technology industry and the first woman to lead NASSCOM, which is the apex body of the IT industry in India. May I now request Ms. Debjani Ghosh to address the gathering, please.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Justices on the dais, and friends in the room. This is such an august gathering, and I have to confess, I am usually not nervous speaking, but today I am tremendously nervous speaking in front of all of you. So first of all, a huge thanks to Pratibha ma'am for giving me this opportunity to speak. And I loved her call because she had 3 words. She said, you need to talk about women, you need to talk about IP, and you need to talk about innovation. Now go connect the dots. And it was, but I don't think I need to talk a lot because what you heard from Suchitra, what you heard from Nandini is the reason why we need more and more women in innovation and why IP matters. And Nandini, I could have happily given you my time to hear you speak about all the fantastic work you're doing in ISRO. But in that spirit, I mean, today is World IP Day, and there's good news for India. NASSCOM just today released a report on the Indian IP landscape, and you will be happy to know that in the last decade, we have had around 584,000 patents. And in the last year, 2022, it went up the highest ever in the decade, 13.6%, nearly 14%. And the other good news is so far, most of our patents were applied outside India by Indian companies. Today, nearly 45% of the patents are applied domestically in India. So things are progressing in the right direction. Miles to go before we sleep, but I think we are taking the right steps. Now, coming back to the topic, women. Why women in innovation? Let's talk about that. We heard the absolutely inspiring stories of Suchitra and Nandini. I want to tell you a few more stories, one or two if I may. Let's talk about seat belts. Do you know that seatbelt wearing female occupants in a car has 73% greater odds of being seriously injured in a frontal car crash than the male counterparts? Did anyone know that? 73% higher chances of being seriously injured in a car accident, a frontal car accident, than a male in the same position. Why? Because of the difference in our anatomy, because of the muscle density, the joint stiffness, etc., that makes us much more vulnerable to these crashes than men. Data from National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in the US showed that a woman driver or a belted front passenger is 17% more likely than man to be killed in a car crash. Any idea when the first the test dummy was invented? Anyone knows as to when the first car crash dummy was invented? It was back in something like 1940. And any idea when the first test dummy that was built for women was invented? 2022. 2022. Dr. Astrid Linder from the Swedish National Road and Transport Research Institute took this up and created the world's first female crash test dummy that is modeled on an average woman's body, around 5 feet 3 inches, weighs 62 kg. We've come a long way in terms of her at least figuring it out and coming out with the IP, coming out with the product. And now we have to see, of course, the role of regulation and how this becomes a reality. And if it does, imagine the lives it can save. But, this is why you need different perspectives in research. This is why you need different thinking that can challenge legacy. And today, if there is one role that women have to play in innovation, we have to challenge status quo. We have to challenge legacy thinking. What was legacy thinking when it came to seat belts? That you have the car crash dummy that is invented for men, we will adapt it to suit women. Doesn't work. Absolutely doesn't work. Let me give you one more homegrown example. How many in the room have heard about Dr. Geeta Manjunathan? Anyone? You should look her up. An absolutely inspiring woman. She's the founder of Niramai Health Analytics. It's one of the few Indian startups in the healthcare sector that is recognized globally as one of the leading startups, especially when it comes to using AI in healthcare. And she has come up with a very novel diagnostic process for screening breast cancer in women, which is non-touch, radiation-free, pain-free, and tremendously more cost-effective than any legacy process like mammography that is out there, right? Now, Geeta was not in the business of healthcare. Geeta was a techie. She was a data analytics in an MNC company, the AI research lead, if I'm not wrong. Her invention came out of a personal tragedy where her younger cousin, who used to go for regular health checks, etc., was suddenly diagnosed with breast cancer. It was at a very late stage, and she lost her cousin. And that's what motivated Geeta to think about how can I use the learning that I have in AI to come out with something that will make early detection and therefore prevention in breast cancer a reality. The portable non-invasive technology is a game changer, invented in India. Today, it is available in multiple countries, screening over 70,000 women in India only, especially rural India. It is available in Kenya, available in UAE, and commercially available in more than 150 hospitals at last count all over the world. Both stories demonstrate the importance, again, of diverse representation in innovation. According to WHO, in 2020, 2.3 million women were diagnosed with breast cancer. 2020, 2.3 million. The world's most prevalent form of the disease across the world. As many as 6,85,000 women lost their lives to breast cancer the same year. In terms of mortality, 37.2% of women died from the disease in India in 2020, compared to a global average of 30%. We have people working in the field of healthcare research for ages. But once again, you needed a different perspective to challenge status quo and to say that we can find a solution differently. We can find a solution that is easily accessible. We can find a solution that most of India will be able to afford. And that's what Dr. Geeta Manjunathan did. I'd keep calling her doctor and she keeps correcting me. That's what she did. We finally now have a proven solution from India that is revolutionizing breast cancer treatment across the world because someone cared, because someone stood up and said, I am not okay with what is happening. I am going to challenge the way things have been happening, and let's figure out if we can find a new solution. This is why we need to encourage diversity and innovation. These are problems that have challenged us for ages. None of these problems, none of these so-called grand challenges that the world is facing today, be it the climate crisis or food crisis or water crisis, is a new problem. These are all problems that have existed. But we need people who are willing to bring in different perspectives and think in a different way to find new solutions to these old problems. The truth is that there is abundant scientific evidence. I know this audience cares about data. So there's abundant scientific evidence that diversity improves such performance. For example, I think researchers in University of Michigan found that diverse groups can solve such problems much better than homogeneous teams with much greater objective ability. Now imagine if we had 1,000 Nandinis, 1,000 Geetas, 1,000 Suchitras in every sector in India, challenging legacy, challenging status quo, and saying we can do things differently and bringing in that different perspective. Imagine what it would do to the India landscape, innovation landscape. Now let's talk about the role of IP. Suchitra talked about the importance of IP. In fact, if I'm not wrong, she said she's an IP-driven, Bharat Biotech is an IP-driven company. The same goes for Niramai. Niramai is an IP-driven company, some 29 patents. It's a very new company, 29 patents and growing. But it is so important for us to create awareness about the benefits of IP. Today, when I talk to startups, and I talk to a lot of tech startups, we have nearly 27,000 tech startups in India. Out of that, 3,000 odd tech startups are actually deep tech. They are using technologies like artificial intelligence, quantum, robotics to create unique products and solutions. Guess how many of that have patentable solutions in India today? Any guesses of 3,000? 10%? Around that, 485 to be precise, right? Less than 500 have patentable solutions. Why? It's not because they're not brilliant. It's not because they're not capable. It's not because they're not doing fantastic work. They are. But one, they don't see the benefits. And I talk to them all the time to say, why not? And I'll be very frank here, though our processes have improved, but they need to continue to improve. You can't wait for a patent approval in our game for a year. Just, the technology is outdated by then, just won't work. The process is still so cumbersome for a startup. I mean, this one guy told me that, listen, in order for me to get a patent, I have to go and get a legal help. I have to hire a legal company to do this. My overall cost is 4x more than the cost of the patent. And by the time I get it, it's often too late. So what do I do? And I think we have to spend a little time in India. In India, I strongly believe that we absolutely have what it takes to be the innovation hub of the world. We have talent, we have the right mindset, and we have access to problems. And I say it in a positive way because one of the biggest problems with Silicon Valley today and the innovation in Silicon Valley today is they don't have any access to hands-on problems. They don't experience problems first. A lot of people talk about this. They don't experience problems firsthand. And when you don't experience problems firsthand, your ability to innovate, your ability to push the boundaries on innovation are often limited. We don't have that problem in India. We have big problems to solve, and the problems we solve for India can address the world, can solve problems for the world. But we have to build in our education, in K-12, in higher education, an appreciation for IP, for intellectual property. Someone mentioned that the number of women, now let's talk about women in IP, right? Someone said in WIPO's called out that only 16% are women. I was beyond shocked to hear WIPO also call out that by the time you actually achieve inclusion in patents, it's going to be something like 2060 or 2061, if I'm not wrong. We can't afford to wait that long. We cannot afford to wait that long with the kind of societal challenges, the kind of mega challenges that is facing humanity today. We can't afford to wait till 2061 in order to bring in inclusion into the innovation process. And I think this is something that I'm so glad that Minister is here because I know he is passionate about startups. He's one of our biggest champions and advocates for startups. And he is passionate about innovation. I think as the world thinks about innovation, maybe, Minister, India needs to look at how do we take the lead on inclusive innovation. While the world is just thinking of the latest in innovation and the coolest in innovation, can we honestly, exactly what we have done with DPIs, we have democratized technology and access to DPIs. Can we democratize the process of innovation too and make sure that everyone who has the hunger, who has the commitment can do it? And the IP, the making IPs easily accessible, quickly accessible is going to play a huge role. And last but not the least, I can't not speak here, but pose a question or food for thought to all the distinguished guests in the room. I heard about the focus on IP, and I'm actually thrilled that you now have not just in Delhi, but also in Chennai, but I do believe it's too little. I believe that India needs an IP court in pretty much every state, if not every city, because the world of IP, as you know, is going to get completely disrupted. Today, we are in the world of generative AI. Everyone heard of ChatGPT? Yeah? Anyone using ChatGPT to write out your briefs? Yeah. But today, when you look at the world of generative AI, today, anyone with basic knowledge, I do know how to code, but I'm not a great coder. I'm a entry-level coder. But even I, and I've tried it out, can use some of these AI tools, not ChatGPT. There are tons of AI tools out there, generative AI tools. I can write a song in the style of anyone you want, whoever your favorite singer is. So you can write a song. Today, as you know, we lost Harry Belafonte, great musician. So I was just playing with my tools, ChatGPT and in the morning, and got them to rewrite one of my favorite songs in the style of Harry Belafonte. And then I discovered another tool which will render that song in his voice. And it is not going to ask for any permissions. Now, if I'm liable, if I'm playing with my AI tools and I decide that I want to write out a speech, maybe, Minister, in your style, I'm a big fan of your style, and put it out there, who's liable? When machine is creating content and putting it out, who's liable? And this is a conversation I would love to have with you all at some point in time, but I think this is not happening tomorrow. This is happening today. The tools are all available. Music industry is the first to get disrupted. We have songs that AI is writing as Eminem, putting it out in Eminem's voice, and he is completely blown away when he hears it because he didn't even know that this was happening. And it can happen to every single artist. You can soon have you as a user saying, I love James Bond, but my favorite actor is Shah Rukh Khan, so I'm going to use one of the coding plugins in whatever your favorite GPT tool is, and create that entire movie, render an entire movie with Shah Rukh Khan in the lead instead of Daniel Craig. And I'm not talking about the future. This is today. Absolutely possible. The future of coding today, unfortunately, is English. You don't need to know Python. You don't need to know any other language. If you know English and you know how to provide the right prompts to your tools, you can do magic. So I'll just leave that with you, food for thought to think about as the world of IP changes. How does the world of creating laws around IP need to change? And are we changing fast enough? So thank you once again for this opportunity. And once again, Suchitra and Nandini, congratulations.
We are grateful to Ms. Ghosh for setting an example for women in innovation. This program would not have been possible without the leadership of our own Chief Justice, Mr. Satish Chandra Sharma. May I now request Honorable the Chief Justice to please address this august gathering.
Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textile. It's a very lengthy ministry. Our chief guest for the day, Honorable Justice Hema Kohli, my sister, a Judge Supreme Court of India, guest of honor for the day. Honorable Justice Amanullah, Judge Supreme Court of India. Justice Siddharth Mradul, Justice Pratibha Singh, Justice Yashwant Verma, my assistant brother judges serving on the bench of this court, Ms. Debjani Ghosh, President NESCOM, Shri Mohit Mahathur, President Delhi High Court Bar Association, Senior Advocates, Mrs. Suchitra Ella, of course I know her personally also, MD of Bharat Biotech. I would like to say something about Suchitra ji. Suchitra ji and her husband Ella Krishna were doing very well in America. Just to serve the motherland, they came back in 1996. They could have continued in America, but they wanted to serve Indian people. They came back to India. She's head of Bharat Biotech. And when people were dying during COVID, Suchitra ji and Ella Krishna were busy in manufacturing Covaxin. I took Covaxin. and I took, I'll not disclose that event, I took nasal drop also of Covaxin, and by God's grace, till now, no COVID. Suchitra ji is not only expert in making vaccines, she's expert in making pickles also. So there's another company called Ella Foods. They sell spices, pickles, and all kind of things which ladies like. Mrs. Nandini Harinath is the famous scientist from ISRO. You must have all of you must have heard about the missile man of India, of course, Abdul Kalam Sahaba. She's the rocket woman of India. My dear judicial officer of the registry, officers and officials, other officials, members of the bar, and all other who are in attendance today. I wish you all a very good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we have assembled here to celebrate the journey of the intellectual property law in general and of the intellectual property division of High Court in particular. This court holds a unique distinction of having the first ever division dedicated to intellectual property laws. The division aims to acknowledge the intellectual property disputes as a unique class and strives for an expert redressal of the same. The division also stands in recognition of the fact that intellectual property laws are not an isolated class, as they have a material bearing on some of the fundamental freedoms and rights of the citizens. A case of copyright infringement, for instance, might involve the abuse of expressive freedom, while at the same time, if entertained without reasons, it may lead to curtailment of that expressive freedom. What is at stake is a fundamental right. Similarly, take a case of trademark infringement. In all such cases, the fundamental right to carry on any trade or business is involved. Similarly, concerns are involved in patent infringement cases and other forms of intellectual properties. The underlying point here is that in an evolving society, intellectual property is the repository of some of the most cherished rights in our society. Moreover, the resolution of intellectual property dispute is an efficient and time-bound manner, has a positive impact on the ease of doing business in a country. I need not impress upon the importance of ease of doing business in a developing economy in the globalized world. Our theme for today is very important, that is women in IP, accelerating innovation and creativity. While expressing my complete agreement with the theme, I may say that women, not just in the world of intellectual property, but in all avenues, are playing an instrumental role in accelerating innovation and creativity. The intellectual property division has been immensely benefited from the presence of my sister judges. With this thought, I may also impress upon the younger members of the bar to gain maximum from intellectual property division of this court. The practice of intellectual property laws carries immense potential and values and expertise. With this thought, I congratulate the IP division for its tremendous journey and extend my best wishes for the future. Madam Ghosh, this is not from AI. This is my personal note. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your sagacious words. It is now my absolute pleasure to invite the first women judge of the Delhi High Court to be elevated as a judge of Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice Hema Kohli ji. I call upon Honorable Justice Kohli, our guest of honor today, to address all of us. Please, ma'am.
Very good evening. Mr. Piyush Goyal, Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, Brother Amanullah, Chief Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Justice Mridul, Justice Yashwant Verma, Chairperson of the IPT Committee, Justice Pratibha Singh, Justice Naveen Chawla, Justice Hari Shankar, members, judges of the IPD committee, my present and former colleagues, Ms. Debjani Ghosh, President of NASSCOM, Ms. Nandini Harinath, Ms. Suchitra Ella, the members of the executive of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, senior advocates, members of the bar, Registrar General, and officers of the registry, friends from the media, and distinguished guests. There's an old adage that I was sitting here and remembering, which says that you can take the man out of the bush, but you can't take the bush out of the man. You can substitute the word man with woman when it comes to me. So when I moved from Delhi to Hyderabad as Chief Justice, I carried Delhi in my heart. And now that I'm back in Delhi, I'm carrying Hyderabad in my heart. Thank you for Pratibha for inviting me, and thank you for all the love and affection that is showered by all of you whenever I have the pleasure of visiting my parent court. So I propose to perhaps claim a copyright on this affection very soon. I don't know who I'll approach for applying, but I'm surely going to contest any objections when it comes to that. Coming back to the subject at hand, with ever-increasing economic growth and globalization, a robust IPR regime is critical for a flourishing economy that attracts foreign direct investment, trade, and technology transfer. As a rapidly developing economy, our country has been attracting several investments in fields ranging from the automobile industry to the consumer electronic industry, from pharma sector to the IT sector, from healthcare chain to the tourist industry. To foster a vigorous IPR regime, it's imperative to create a conducive atmosphere for research and development and create adequate safeguards for inventors, for authors and creators. A favorable environment not only encourages innovation and creativity, it ensures that IPRs are respected and enforced with vigor. Coming to the IPAB, when it was dissolved, Delhi High Court was indeed the first court in the country to have taken the initiative to establish the Intellectual Property Division. Delhi High Court has been recognized as one of the premier commercial courts of the country, with more than 60% of the intellectual property disputes instituted in this court. The specialized benches of IPD have worked hard over the past year to create a solid IP jurisprudence from a whole range of cases filed on a daily basis. Be it patent disputes or copyright disputes, be it licensing disputes or data theft, the most prominent industries have approached Delhi High Court for relief in complicated matters in diverse fields. The use of enhanced mechanisms like creation of confidentiality clubs, redaction of information, engaging trade-specific technical experts, and an in-depth analysis of complicated issues ranging from physics to biotechnology to chemistry have been dealt with by Delhi High Court's IPD with, and I emphasize, with the able assistance of a vibrant IPR bar that has been at the forefront of this particular field. Indeed, I think, and I speak for all of my colleagues at Delhi High Court, whenever on a change of roster one goes to the original side, it is such a delight to be there to deal with these matters of prime importance, technicalities, which sometimes blow you away, but you go back richer when you learn from all those that is taught by none other than the lawyers who come prepared so thoroughly with these matters. And that is why we say that the cream of the practice is on the original side of the High Court, and not without reason. In the past 1 year, the percentage of disposal of civil suits relating to IP as against institution during the same period has been a remarkable 92%, and that says much of how IPD has worked for Delhi and surely will work for every state high court if they go that way. So various innovation indices show that promoting, protecting, enforcing, and monetizing IP is becoming more important. India has climbed to the 40th rank out of 132 countries in the Global Innovation Index of the WIPO, a huge leap of 41 places in 7 years. Rising IP filings in the Indian IP office and an increase in IP litigation provide strong evidence of this. However, IPRs are time-bound rights with extensive technical aspects, particularly with respect to patents, something that Debjani just highlighted, that time is of essence. So if there is a delay in protecting rights or resolving disputes, the economic value of the intellectual asset is threatened and sometimes simply frittered away. Against this background, formation of IPD by the Delhi High Court and drafting of the relevant rules is truly commendable. This is also expected to give a fillip to foreign investment in India, since investors will have more faith in our intellectual property law. Coming straight to the topic of women and intellectual property, due to IP's fundamental role in supporting innovation, creativity, and economic development, there has been a growing international interest and research into the IP gender gap. This expands beyond the earlier studies that focused on women's patenting activity to examining women's IP-related activity in other sectors as indicators of innovation and creative activity. In India, much like most of the other countries, there is no publicly available data regarding the percentage of women patentees or the number of women patent applicants specifically. Realizing this difficulty in 2022, WIPO issued the guidelines for producing gender analysis from innovation and IP data for national IP offices, companies, and universities. The guidelines summarize the best practices for generating IP gender indicators while emphasizing the need for such indicators. In a patenting space, the global study conducted by WIPO in this year noted that about 96% of all the patent cooperation treaties, PTC applications listed at least one man as an inventor, whereas only 1/3 listed at least one woman as an inventor. New analysis into the US copyright sector shows that the share of copyright registrations overall listing women authors has risen over time. As of 2020, women represent 38.5% of authors of registered works, but that women still make up a small share of authors in registration than they do of participants in the corresponding creative occupations, suggesting a gender disparity in the use of the copyright system. In India, there is minimal data available not just on the number of female inventors, but also on the number of women who work in the patent system in various roles such as patent agents, patent examiners, patent controllers. Generating and publicizing gender-focused data on the percentage of women in the field of innovation and IP should be the first step in identifying the challenges faced by them in the system. It can provide policymakers with the necessary guidance to make surgically precise policies, focusing on women. What are the challenges faced by women concerning IPR in India? IPR rights are essential aspects of our society and economy. They provide legal protection to individuals who create new and innovative ideas, products, and services. The women face unique challenges in securing and protecting their intellectual property rights in India, such as gender bias, discrimination at the workplace, and lack of awareness and education concerning intellectual property rights. Another significant challenge faced by women in India is the need for more legal resources and support. Many women are unable to access legal resources necessary to secure and protect their financial interests. This is also due to lack of knowledge about the legal process. They also face additional barriers for seeking legal assistance, such as cultural, linguistic, and geographical barriers that can make it difficult for them to access the support that they need. Despite these challenges, there is a hope for a brighter future. While it is true that many women in India lack awareness and education about intellectual property rights, there are now more opportunities than ever before for empowerment and for growth. Through initiatives such as workshops, seminars, mentoring programs, women are being educated about various forms of intellectual property protection available to them. This knowledge empowers them to take control of their ideas and innovations and to protect them from infringement and theft. Addressing gender biases and stereotypes in intellectual property is critical to promote gender equality and ensure that women creators have equal opportunities to succeed. This includes changing societal norms that limit participation by women in the workforce, addressing biases in the legal system, and providing access to resources and support for women creators. The very fact that in the IPT division and in the IPR bar there are so many women itself is so reassuring for women who come to the courts for relief, because they can see women sitting there in decision-making positions and authority, which says much about why they should not come back time and again, having the confidence in the judiciary with women there to deal with situations which they can understand perhaps sometimes better than their male counterparts. As a step in this direction, the Government of India had published in 2018, they had amended the Patent Rules 2003. One of the amendments, which is to Rule 24C, Sub-Rule 1, the focus is on specific instances where applicants may seek expedited examination by the Indian Patent Office prior to the first examination report. One of the new categories of applicants who can avail of this expedited examination is an individual female patent applicant or groups where at least one applicant is a female. Further, the patenting fee for women entrepreneurs has been reduced by 80% to support them. As per the Niti Aayog report of 2022 titled Decoding Government Support to Women Entrepreneurs in India, India is now the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. Women-led technology startups and female STEM enrollments are receiving more attention. Women own only 20% of all businesses in India. 82% of these women-led businesses, as in Suchitra's, are micro units, not like Bharat Biotech. Micro units is what they are, and or they're operating as sole proprietorships, with majority concentrated in the informal sector. Indian women scientists account only for 14% of the country's 280,000 scientists, engineers, and technologists working in research organizations. So this is far lower than the global percentage of women among scientific researchers, which is 30%. It is also paradoxical that India has the greatest percentage of women graduates in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics in the world at 43%, higher than developed nations such as US, 34%, UK, 38%, Germany, 27%, France, 32%. During the 3 years from 2017 to 2019-2020, there was a sustained growth in the number of Indian women STEM graduates that increased by 5%, while the number of male students decreased by 4.7% in the same period. There is a growing movement towards promoting diversity and inclusivity at the workplace, creating more level playing field for women. Companies are now realizing the immense value that women bring to the table and are actively seeking out and promoting female innovators and entrepreneurs. It has opened up a world of possibilities for women in terms of securing and protecting their intellectual property rights and fostering professional and personal growth. The industry must rise to create opportunities for women to enter and advance in fields such as STEM, and it can be accomplished by providing training opportunities for women in these fields, developing mentorship and networking programs that can connect them with successful professionals in their fields. It is equally important to ensure that women creators have access to the necessary resources and support to succeed in intellectual property fields. This includes providing access to funding, to mentorship programs, to networking opportunities, and supporting women-owned businesses and startups in the field. I must share with you that the Government of India has implemented the Women Scientist Scheme called WSS to provide opportunities to women scientists who want to return to the mainstream science and work in IPR. This particular scheme aims to train women with qualifications in science, in engineering, medicine, and allied areas in the area of IPR and their management for 1 year. The training allows them to work from their homes. This scheme is being implemented on behalf of the Department of Science and Technology. And until June 2021, A little over 750 women have been trained under the scheme. Roughly about 50% are gainfully pursuing their careers in IPR, working in top IPR attorney law firms, IPR departments of government agencies, MNCs, and knowledge processing outsourcings, etc., providing patent-related services in India. Some of them work from home and provide consultancy services. Others have started their own ventures and are employing others. So coming to the current situation, the increased legal resource and support. Currently, there is a great availability of legal resources and support for women seeking to secure and protect their intellectual property rights. Law firms and legal organizations are increasingly focused on providing women with tools and resources they need to navigate the complex world of IPR. This empowers them to protect their ideas and innovations and promotes greater gender equality and inclusivity within the legal profession. The government has incidentally set up a specialized IP cell to provide legal resources and support to women so that there is more awareness and education on IPR, and legal resources are provided to women to support them and all stakeholders. The Office of the Controller General of Patents has issued a press release as recently as January 23, introducing IP Mitra for startup in patents, trademarks, and designs. The initiative recognizes that a bit of leverage from a trusted IP practitioner can work wonders in achieving the desired results. The project proposes to be implemented under the scheme of Startups Intellectual Property Protection, SIP. IP Mitra can help the intending entrepreneurs, including women entrepreneurs, in several ways, as in assisting in filing, support and facilitating the process of IP applications, dispensing expert advice on various legal aspects of IP, broadening one's IP portfolio, and enabling stakeholders to look for new ventures in the IP world through their experience and skill. To conclude, all stakeholders must join hands to ensure that women's intellectual property rights are promoted and safeguarded, that they are recognized and rewarded for their creativity and innovation. It is not only a matter of access to justice and equal treatment, which are themselves important goals. It is also essential for the progress and prosperity of our nation. Providing women with the necessary resources, education, and legal protection will open new doors for them. Addressing the inherent biases and stereotypes that often hold them back in the field of intellectual property will help create a robust ecosystem for the society as a whole. They can fully participate in the development of our society, fostering creativity, innovation, and competition. Women are known to be innovators and creators in multiple roles that they are expected to handle at home, be it as wives, as mothers, as daughters-in-law, as caregivers. When the same creativity and innovation enters the professional field, it unlocks the potential for greater progress and prosperity. It is time for us to look through the gendered lens, stand up for the intellectual property rights of women, and send a powerful message to the world that we recognize and acknowledge her invaluable contribution to our society. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your presence is indeed special for us. Intellectual property drives the world economy as well as India. Intellectual property in India is driven under the leadership of Honorable Union Minister for Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textile, Mr. Piyush Goyal, who will now deliver the keynote address. Please, sir.
A very good evening to all the distinguished participants on this World Intellectual Property Day celebration. Honorable Ms. Justice Hema Kohli, Judge of the Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Chief Justice, Delhi High Court, Honorable Judges, Mr. Justice Siddharth Midul, Mr. Justice Hari Shankar, Ms. Justice Pratibha Singh, and the architect of today's program, Mr. Justice Yashwant Verma, Mr. Justice Naveen Chawla, other distinguished judges who are present today, friends from the Delhi High Court. I see a number of students, I assume with particular interest in the intellectual property space, lawyers, members of the Delhi Bar Association, friends. Indeed, a privilege to be a part of this celebration on such an interesting subject where we are discussing the role of women in the way IP ecosystems can contribute and how women are contributing to India's intellectual property ecosystem. It's indeed a very appropriate theme where the entire world today is recognizing the increasing importance and contribution of women to world economies, to technologies, to innovations, and therefore accelerating innovation and creativity will certainly have a big role to play by the women of our country and of the world. In fact, Debjani was in her comments talking about the problems that we have before the world. I remember Prime Minister Modi had once said, while we may have 1 million problems, we have 1 billion minds to solve those problems. And I have absolutely no doubt, given that half those billion minds are of our distinguished women, we are going to see a lot more action from the women innovators, women creators, and just as Justice Kohli mentioned, with 43% of students enrolling in the STEM courses in India being women, I would suspect this number of women with IP or contributing to the IP world will certainly grow from the 16% that WIPO has brought out in its report. In fact, while speaking about India and India's Amrit Kaal, the 25 years from 75 to 100 years of independence, addressing the nation on 15th August 2022, when we were all celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the Honorable Prime Minister gave us 5 commitments, 5 pran. But along with that, he spoke of 2 other issues. One, our collective effort to eliminate corruption from India. 2, the role of women in India, Nari Shakti. And while speaking about the importance of Nari Shakti and the crucial role it will play in the next 25 years, the Amrit Kaal, the Honorable Prime Minister said, and I quote, "I can see the manifold contribution of Nari Shakti in the next 25 years compared to their contribution in the 75 years of India's journey." And clearly, we need not get bogged down by the hesitations of history. What happened in 75 years had a number of very, very unfortunate and, to my mind, undignified lifestyles of women which were institutionalized, which were seen on a daily basis, but problems were not getting resolved. A case in point, until 9 years ago, half of India's population did not have a toilet to go to. Now one may wonder why I'm talking about a toilet at an important event like this. But ladies and gentlemen, with half your population living in that indignity of not even having a toilet at home, who have to get up before sunrise for their daily needs, and should there be an unfortunate illness or a need during the day, it used to be terribly, terribly, terribly insulting for our young sisters, daughters, our mothers. And therefore, until we solve a problem from the root, unless we resolve the challenges before the nation, do a root cause analysis and get rid of these problems, how can we expect women to play a greater role? Exceptions would be there. We are proud of Debjani, Nandini ji, Ella ji. Very, very proud of their achievements. But clearly, we need to see much more of that. And the last 9 years have been a journey where the government has focused very deeply on addressing these basic needs of society. I mean, I remember and not too far in the distant past, we had even Hindi movies coming out on an elementary thing like roti, kapda or makan. The Padman issue, I'm sure some of you may have seen how Murugathan, I think his name was Murugathan, or how the young man who wanted to provide sanitary pads to his wife was confronted not only with the high cost of pads or its inavailability, but also with societal problems because of which he could not introduce sanitary pads in his own household. And this period of 9 years, friends, has been a defining period for our sisters and daughters, because it is in this period that we not only took electricity to every home, a very, very basic need, we not only gave financial inclusion to every family and now possibly to almost every adult, with over 48 crore Jan Dhan accounts today. Nobody is deprived of their ability to reach to a bank. And by the way, when the Jan Dhan accounts were launched, financial inclusion program was launched in August of 2014. The first effort was to get every woman a bank account of her own, so that instead of being helpless, that for every 100 rupees that is sent to the common man, 85 rupees is destined to go into corruption or into the wrong hands, into the hands of middlemen and brokers, we could actually reach today nearly 28 lakh crore rupees directly into the bank account of beneficiaries, more instances of women beneficiaries getting this money into their bank account and helping India take people out of the drudgery, get every woman a respectful place in society, ensure equal opportunity for our girl child, make available sanitary pads at 1 rupee a pad. So for effectively about a $1, $1.10, a need of a woman for the entire year in less than 100 rupees can be taken care of. These may sound very, very small. Maybe some of you may feel they are irrelevant to the subject at hand. But I personally believe that all the previous speakers, and this is not a part of any of my talking points, but hearing all my esteemed and distinguished speakers, I realized that this can only be resolved in a society, in an environment which enables our women, which empowers them to be able to truly contribute to the nation's development. And that has been the journey of the last decade or so, where we've put in all our efforts, ensured that what Mahatma Gandhi had once said, that the first right on the nation's resources should be for the last man or woman at the bottom of the pyramid, is actually put into practice. And therefore, I am one who believes that with the enrollment of 43% women today in STEM courses, I see this number going up to probably 60 or 70%, with women overtaking men in the years to come. And we'll have so many more hundreds and thousands of Ellas and thousands and of Nandinis and Debjanis who'll come out of oblivion, whom we would never have heard of, and come up with innovative solutions. Because India has an infinite potential. India has an innovation powerhouse waiting to be unleashed. We have innumerable possibilities to solve the nation's problems. And all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be led by women, is going to be women-centric. Today I was discussing a free trade agreement with the 4 EFTA countries, and you'll be happy to know, while most people think India is hesitant to engage on modern subjects or subjects like gender equality and women, the EFTA countries did not mind if we did not have a chapter on women in the FTA. It is India who proposed that we will talk about gender equality and women in our FTA. I believe this journey of the last 10 years has truly given our girl child their rightful place in society, has truly given respect to our women in this country. And I think this women development in this country has changed. The narrative is not anymore of women development. It is of women-led development. And that is the India that we all wish to see, that we all wish to be a part of. Today, as we are gathered to celebrate and recognize the significant contribution and role of women in IP, I'm reminded of their role since time immemorial. Women led in innovation, with Marie Curie being the first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes, with Ada Lovelace being the first computer programmer in history, Harriet Tracy, who patented technically advanced industrial machines. We've had powerful women with big ideas, with innovations which have changed the destiny of the world. And I have absolutely no doubt that our Indian women of substance are going to do us equally proud in the years to come. We have one woman of substance on the stage, Justice Hima Kohli, who's done the nation proud with her illustrious career in the legal profession. We have another woman of substance, Justice Pratibha Singh, who, while she initially felt the elimination of the IP appellate board was wrong and she was very, very unhappy, she used to fight with me every time and tell me that this is just not done. It's a very important organization. I was just asking her that after the tribunal's orders, did they go directly to the Supreme Court or come to the High Court? I was told they came back to the High Court. We have actually eliminated one layer and made IP easier. I mean, you may have other reasons to have an appellate board, which I will not like to delve into, and which is often a matter of public debate recently. But I think we are eliminating a layer and helping get justice in time, because you yourself say justice delayed is justice denied. It's not my maxim. It's come out of some legal work itself. So I think we should be willing to evolve with time, and we should be willing to change and become more contemporary. I mean, for that matter, I was just telling Pratibha ji, and I have no personal knowledge. My wife has said this to me, and as with most of us men in this room, when the wife says something, she's always right. And there's no need for an IP on that. It's proven technology. But she told me that the pav bhaji that we have in Mumbai, my home city, was an innovation of some housewife once upon a time who realized that the vegetables which were left over after the meal could be put to good use, mashed into a bhaji with lots of butter thrown in. Pav was the staple dish of Mumbai and Maharashtra. And lo and behold, you had probably one of the most delicious meals one could have. And just as very often when I go to Mumbai, if I am able to take the last flight, because before that it's almost impossible to leave, I land at about 2 o'clock, reach home by about 3 o'clock, and my person has already got pav bhaji from Shiv Sagar or one of the prominent places at home. और रात को 3 बजे जिस आनंद के साथ you met my wife, many of you, हम दोनों बैठ के पाव भाजी खाते हैं. I think we thank that woman in history who must have come up with the pav bhaji. For that matter, I'm told the pizza is a similar concoction. This also came out from some woman who realized that there were a lot of leftover vegetables. Fortunately, in India, हम leftover vegetables रखते नहीं हैं, हम बनाते ही उतना है जितना हमारे को जरूरत है. दुर्भाग्य है कि दुनिया भूल गई है what waste is all about. We in India are proud. The world talks of sustainability, but nobody recognizes that the most important element of sustainability is reducing waste, is recycling, is reuse, repair. But India always recognized that. For us, sustainability is not a foreign concept or a novel concept. We believed in sustainability always. And therefore, to my mind, in the years to come, our women are going to come up with as many new ideas as one can imagine. I'm, by the way, Justice Sharma, I'm myself a recipient of the Covaxin. All my 3 doses are Covaxin. And having heard about the nasal vaccine today, I'm going right back today and getting a nasal vaccine for myself and my wife. We've had women of substance in every sphere of life. Our 2 Oscar winners this year, Gunit Monga and Kartike Gonsalves, did us proud at the Oscars with their Elephant Whisperers. Truly, I don't know how many of you saw that. Short but very powerful message for the world. And so many of our Padma awardees, including Padma Bhushan, Ella, who's here. We've had botanists of eminence like Janki Anmal, who had researched thousands of plant species. We had Anna Mani's research on solar radiation, wind energy, and the ozone layer, which brought India on a global pedestal in the area of meteorology. So it's not as if we have not had our fair share of success stories. We've had Tessie Thomas, the missile woman of India. We've had Ritu Karidhar. I'm sorry, but she was called the rocket woman, but I would grant Nandini the same status. And if I may mention about the startup world, a Mumbai woman, Falguni Nair, who was a startup in her 50s, well into her 50s, after 30 years of experience in many areas, including long stint at Kotak Bank, she came up with Nykaa. And it's our first fully woman-led unicorn. While, of course, nearly 47% of our startups today have at least one woman director, I'm sure going forward, we're going to see much more action in the startup world coming out from our women. Justice Hari Shankar gave us a lot of food for thought, and I thank you for the same. I've got very detailed notes of everything that you said, even though I had to unfortunately step out to attend a cabinet meeting at 5 o'clock. My apologies to all of you and to the distinguished judges that I could not be a part of the initial program, but I had no choice. I had to attend the cabinet meeting. But truly, what you have given us is a lot of homework, and I assure you each one of those will be looked at very, very seriously by my colleagues and I. I actually have some thoughts about what we are going to do also prepared and put up to me, but I will leave that for another day when I can maybe come and have lunch in this beautiful new modern building with Pratibha ji and her sister and brother judges, and maybe pick up some ideas from your long experience. Thank you, Justice Siddharth Mridul, also for all the kind words that you have mentioned. Thank you, Chief Justice. Thank you, Justice Seema, for all the informative advice that you have given us and the way forward. But truly, I'd like to thank the Delhi High Court and all the honorable judges for having started the first IP division, and which is now followed by Madras High Court, I believe. It's truly been a remarkable journey. Expedited decisions taken by you have helped the whole IP world get confidence in the Indian jurisprudence and Indian IP laws. We on our part are looking afresh at the entire patent office. We've got, I think about 1,000 new posts are being created in the IP office so that we have many more controllers, where I'm told the chicken's neck is, so that we can speed up patent clearances. I'm personally taking reviews almost every 10 or 15 days to see how we can digitalize the entire IP ecosystem. And my instructions to the IP offices, I don't know if already implemented, but maybe in the next few weeks, we'll have a complete zero interface between our IP offices, whether it's design, trademark, copyright, patent, whatever. There'll be zero interface between the individual or lawyers and the office. Everything will be only and only on video conferencing. There'll be nobody allowed to enter the IP offices. And all the video conferences will be videographed, recorded. The idea being that I want to create a completely corruption-free regime. I do not want any intermediaries. I hope none of the lawyers minds this, but this will make your life easier also. There'll be time bound, all hearings will be on video. There's a morning hour. What's the timing, Unnat? Where you have the morning open, free for everybody. They have a Friday hour. It's like the Prime Minister's hour in the UK Parliament, where any and everybody, it's an open link, can come in and engage with the officials. I'm going to take that forward to a daily 1 hour. So every day there'll be a 1 hour open link where any and everybody who feels there's any injustice, who feels he wants to convey any grievance or any other issue, you are free to come on to that open hour. All the offices will be available at that open hour to resolve in real time any issues related to the IP ecosystem. Mr. Undat Pandit, the chief of our entire IP division, is in this room. I hope you will take forward this decision. Every day, 1 hour. Please have an open link for everybody to engage and interact with your office. And give me a time frame quickly that zero human interface can be made possible, everything online. Friends, there will be challenges. There are challenges of lack of IP knowledge. There is a lack of access to networks, mentors and sponsors. There are difficulties very often, particularly for women, to get financial resources. But I assure you, we are looking at ways to support women entrepreneurs at the Startup India mission with the support of friends like Debjani, who's a member of the Startup Advisory Council. We've started mentoring programs. We've started giving advisory services. We have started connecting women with new ideas or startups with new ideas with investors through another online initiative. Several ideas are on the table, and I assure you, the way forward of awareness, widespread mentoring, women-targeted availability of financial resources, hopefully many more IP divisions in the other high courts will all help us reimagine the women's role as architects of India's progress and development. Your participation in our IP activities can clearly lead to a more diverse, equitable, and sustainable knowledge-based economy. Friends, in conclusion, we are proud to have a tribal Adivasi as India's president. Mahamahim Rashtrapati ji, Srimati Draupadi Murmu had said, and I quote, "I wish to urge each of you to commit yourself to one change, any change that would bring a smile on a girl's face or would improve her chances of moving ahead in life." I invite each one of you and invite all the people of India to follow her guidance and work towards bringing a smile on one woman's face every single day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for addressing the women issues and enlightening the audience on the steps being taken by the Government of India for strengthening the intellectual property in India. It's now time for the vote of thanks. I request Honorable Justice Naveen Chawla ji to give the vote of thanks for the day.
Mr. Piyush Goyal, Honorable Union Minister, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles. Honorable Ms. Justice Hema Kohli, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Honorable Mr. Justice Amantullah, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Honorable Mr. Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, Chief Justice of our court. Brother and sister judges on the dais and in the audience. Officers of the District Court, learned ASG, our guest of honors, Ms. Divjani Ghosh, President of NASSCOM, Ms. Suchitra Ila and Ms. Nandini Harinath, Professor Unnat Pandit, Controller General of Patent and Design, in the audience, members of the bar, my dear friends, good evening to all. As we come to the close of today's celebratory program of the World Intellectual Property Day 2023, with the theme of Women in IP, Accelerating Innovation and Creativity, I have been tasked with the privilege of extending a warm thanks to the respected guests and the participants. As we all know, the World Intellectual Property Day is celebrated on April 26th, as it coincides with the date on which the convention establishing the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, came into force in 1970. It is a public outreach campaign of WIPO. This year's theme is Women in IP, Accelerating Innovation and Creativity. It is to celebrate the can-do attitude of women's inventors, creators, and entrepreneurs around the world and their groundbreaking work. Our program was a small step in acknowledging the women achievers in India. We extend our sincere thanks to Mr. Piyush Goyal, Honorable Minister, for having taken out time from his busy schedule to deliver the keynote address. In fact, as you would have noticed, and he in fact mentioned, his cabinet meeting was suddenly postponed, but still he took out time for us. He was here, and but for a small time that he had to go away for that meeting. We are very grateful to you, sir, for being here and for addressing us. In fact, under his leadership, I was just reading, and in fact, one of the participants mentioned it, India has improved its ranking in Global Innovation Index from 81st in 2015 to the 40th rank in 2022. In fact, I was reading one of the speeches that he gave in another function, where he said that he aims that this year we would have achieved the top 10 ranking in the top 25, all right, so top 25 ranking in the World Innovation Index ranking. I'm sure under the leadership we all will. And when we have innovators and entrepreneurs like we have in this group, we certainly will achieve that. In fact, in his speech, he's highlighted the steps that have been taken under the IP, in the IP offices towards bringing about transparency, bringing about the virtual hearings, etc. These are all steps which will then lead to our betterment of our ranking in this World Innovation Index. He's also highlighted the recognition of the government to the Nari Shakti and the steps that have been taken by the government towards betterment and recognition of this Nari Shakti. We indeed thank you again, sir, for your presence and for your words of encouragement. We also extend our warm thanks to Honorable Ms. Justice Hema Kohli, Judge Supreme Court of India, who is one of our own and who has always guided us and encouraged us to showcase our achievements. In fact, in her speech, I was just noticing that she was actually just talking about this High Court and its achievement. Thank you very much, sir, ma'am, for being for us and for us always. She herself is a true example of the can-do attitude in women, which we are celebrating today. In fact, as was pointed out by the compare, she is the first woman judge from our court to the Supreme Court. We truly appreciate her contribution not only to this court, but also to the Supreme Court, and for being with us always. We thank Justice Amanullah Khan for his kind presence in the audience. So thank you very much for taking out time for us and for being a part of this function. I also thank our leader and our general, one should say, Justice Satish Chandra Sharma, the Chief Justice of our court, under whose leadership this court has been able to achieve success and has been in the forefront of the legal dispensation system in IP and other fields of law. In fact, as it is said, especially because it's an IP function, that idea will not have any kind of a protection until it is implemented. That implementation comes through a general who understands that idea and gives us go-ahead. And that is what Justice Satish Chandra Sharma is. The general who immediately, when I think Justice Pratibha Singh came out with this idea of celebrating the IP Day, immediately gave his consent and in fact has been guiding the conduct of this program at the back end. I must also thank Ms. Debjani Ghosh, President NASSCOM, for agreeing to participate in this function. She again is an example of can-do attitude of women in technology. Your advice of encouraging diversity in innovation and challenging legacy is well taken. In fact, that's one step that will help us in improving our ranking, I'm sure, in the world, in that innovative list. We also thank Ms. Nandini Harinath and Ms. Suchitra Ella for being there, for not only the contributions to the world, but for their presence today in this seminar. As Ms. Nandini Harinath said, but I must tell her, in fact, that you have actually hit that golf ball across the continents into US. Thank you very much for being there. Ms. Suchitra Ella also very profoundly said, we breathe, dream, and live innovation. In fact, that is what is exemplified by all the achievements that have been achieved by Biotech and by Ms. Ila. We thank you again for your contributions. The 4 women achievers that we have amongst us today, Justice Hema Kohli, Ms. Debjani Ghosh, Ms. Nandini Harinath, Ms. Suchitra Ella, are the true representatives of the Indian women achievers in different walks of life. And we celebrate their achievement and contribution by this small program that we hosted today. I thank Honorable Mr. Justice Yashwant Verma, the chairperson of the Tribunal Reform and IP Division Committee, for leading the way in organizing this function. I also thank Ms. Pratibha M. Singh, the, I don't know, innovator of an idea of this program, and for presenting the report of 1 year of IP division in the Delhi High Court. I thank Justice C. Harishankar for highlighting the challenges in the IP law. I also thank the committee members of the Tribunal Reforms and IP Division Committee Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjeev Narula, Ms. Justice Poonam A. Bamba, Honorable Mr. Justice Sachin Datta, for helping organize this event and ensuring its success. I would like to thank the honorable judges, both former and sitting, who have graced this function with their presence. Their presence itself is a recognition of the importance of this court gives to the IP disputes and their expeditious disposal. Thank you very much all for being there. In fact, in our midst is Honorable Mr. Justice Manmohan Singh, the former judge of this court and the chairperson of the former IPAB. Thank you very much, sir, for being there. I also thank the judges of the district court who have also taken out time to attend this function. I thank the learned ASG, Mr. Chetan Sharma, the executive members of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, the learned senior advocates and other members of the bar for participating in this function. This function is a joint celebration of the World Intellectual Property Day of the bar and the bench. Thank you very much for being there. Finally, no function can be successful without the team which works at the background. And that background team deserves our equal thanks. I thank Mr. Dudeja, the learned Registrar General, Mr. Kawaljit Arora, the Registrar Vigilance, Mr. Kokreja, Registrar Original Site, and other members of the registry who have worked tirelessly to make this program a success. I thank each and every officer of this court who has participated in this function. I also thank the media for covering this event. I thank you all for your presence and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Atithi Devo Bhava is a spirit with which we express our gratitude to all our invitees who have joined us. I now request Honorable Chief Justice to express our gratitude to our Chief Guest of the Day, Honorable Union Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Thank you, sir. May I now request Honorable Justice Siddharth Mridul to felicitate Honorable Justice Hema Kohli, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Thank you, sir. May I now request Honorable Justice Yashwant Verma to felicitate our own Chief Justice, Mr. Satish Chandra Sharma. Thank you, sir. I request Honorable Justice Pratibha M. Singh to felicitate Ms. Debjani Ghosh, President, NASSCOM. Thank you, ma'am. I request all of you to please stand up for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
I now request all our participants and invitees to please join for the high tea. Thank you.